November 19th. This is the meeting to discuss the Community Development Block Grant Project for Boulevard improvements. Go ahead. You're on. You're on, I wonder.
Okay, sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Alondra Gurrola. I'm the project manager for this project. Okay. Let's go ahead and start. If you just give me 1 minute, I have this Bettina Olivares. She's with the Repranello. We're waiting for Boulevard meeting to start. So let me transfer that to us. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Can I ask a quick question? I can't seem to get into the video to see what's going on. How can we get into the video?
So, do you have Teams? You've downloaded Teams?
Yes, I have.
Okay. You should be able, I can put another link in there that will, in the chat. Well, you can't get it if it's chat, it's too big. Give me your email and I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can get that link as well.
Sure. Can I have your email?
Okay, I'll go first. My email is
I'm sorry.
blue, like the color B-L-U-E.
I'm sorry. If people aren't speaking, can they mute their devices? Because I'm getting a lot of feedback and I can't. They're not.
Is this a little bit better or no?
Yes, much better. Go ahead.
It's blue, B-L-U-E, O-G-A-N-G-E @gmail.
And you, sir?
Yes, thank you. Mine is M as in Mary, A as in Apple, G as in goat, B as in boy, 75 @gmail.com.
Hi, all. How are you? Sorry, we were in our own little meeting.
Good afternoon.
Oh, there you go.
And who is the email going to be coming from?
No.
Hi, this is Sarah with Community Human Development. I also dropped the link in the chat if that helps any. You would just click on the click here to join the meeting.
They're on the phone.
Oh.
I just sent the link. I just sent the link to both of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Should we start?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, joining now.
So good evening, everybody. Like I mentioned before, my name is Alondra Gurrola. I'm CID Project Manager for 4 Boulevard Improvements. And I'm going to give you a description of the project. Let's go ahead and start. The project details. The location of this project is 4 Boulevard, from Justice Street to North Copia Street. It's District 2. The total budget for this project is $615,556. Funding source CBDG, which is Community Development Block Grant. The project benefits to the community, enhanced neighborhood aesthetics and enhanced walkability with wider sidewalks and ADA compliance. Project location, like I mentioned before, the limits of the project, it's between Justice Street and Copia Street. The scope of work for this project is demolition of the existing curb and gutter, furnish and install raised hair curb standard, installation of 4 inches reinforced sidewalks, installation of 8 ADA ramps, landscaping, parallel parking with signage, resurfacing and striping, bike striping and signage included on Texas project. This is part of the Texas project, the connectivity bicycle project. The bike striping. So that's not part of our project, but it will be incorporated later on. Site, these are the existing conditions that you can see. We have a lot of deterioration on the pavement as well as the concrete. And those are some pictures of the ramps as well as the access for the commercial buildings. There's more pictures about the asphalt and the ramps and how they're not connected or have the accessibility for the pedestrians. The site plan, this is the proposed scope of work. We have landscaping, we have new ADA ramps, we have sidewalks, and then like I mentioned, we're gonna have striping and we're gonna have the striping for the parallel parking as well. We're gonna have some ADA or handicap signage and ramps as well. And right here you can see we have the landscaping, we have 20 trees, we're using brown golden rock screening. And this is part of the bike connectivity, the TxDOT project for the striping of the bike line. That one will be incorporated later on by the other project. Project information, we have projected construction start on spring 2021. We have a projected construction completion by summer 2021. The contact information, if you have any questions, you can reach me at 915-212-1880, as well as my email, which is gurrola@elpasotexas.gov.
And if I can add something, Alondra, this is Jerry. This meeting is being recorded, and each of you, because you're logged into Teams, will receive a copy of the recording. That recording, however, can't be shared. Only it has to be downloaded first. So if you're interested in sharing it, please let me know and ensure that you get a copy or a link that is shareable. Please again sign in the sign-in sheet so we have a record.
Yes. So now we're open to questions or comments, if any.
I don't have any questions on what's being said so far, but I still cannot see any video. I did not get a link and I can't get in.
You did not get a link?
No, sir.
Let me check.
What we can do, Jerry, if you allow us, we can send a presentation if you're able to give us your email.
Ma'am, did I get your email incorrect perhaps? blueorange@gmail.com?
Yes. So substitute the R and orange with a G.
Okay. My Outlook's freezing, so it'll be just a second.
I have a question. Alondra?
Yes.
Yes, I have a question. So what has been the reception from the business owners? How have they been reacting to all of this?
We did receive some phone calls from the business owners. The main concern that they have is if they're going to have the access to their business when we're doing the construction. And yes, by contract, we have some language in the contract that the contractor has to provide access to this business while we're doing the construction. Because we know that, it's really important for the business to keep, the normal traffic and so on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Alondra, this is Rapanello. Just playing off that question, how long do you think the project will take?
It's to be 8-month project.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just resent the link. I hope you get it.
I did. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? And like I mentioned before, if you feel or you need to do more or have more questions, you can reach me at 915-212-1880, or you can email me to rolla@elpasotexas.gov, and I will be able to respond your whatever questions you have related to this project.
I'm going to bring the presentation back up for the benefit of the individual link originally.
Yes. You want me to put the presentation again?
Just run through it for the benefit of the person that had trouble getting in.
Yes, definitely.
Ma'am, were you able to get in on that link?
We can hear some noises on the back. Okay, let me go again over the presentation. So like I mentioned, this is for Boulevard Improvements Community Meeting. My name is Alondra Gurrola, project manager. The project details, the location of the project is between Justus to North Copia. This is for Boulevard Improvements. District 2, total budget for this project is $650,556. Funding source CBDG, Community Development Block Grant. Project benefits to the community. We have enhanced neighborhood aesthetics and enhanced walkability with wider sidewalks and ADA compliance. The project location is Ford Boulevard between Justice Street and North Copia. The scope of work for this, I'm sorry, let me go back. The scope of work for this project is demolition of the existing curb and gutter, furnish and install raised header curb, which is a standard, installation of 4 inches reinforced sidewalks, installation of 8 ADA ramps, landscaping, parallel parking with signage, resurfacing and striping, And then we'll have future the bike striping and signage. This is included on TechStock project, which is called Connectivity Bicycle Project. We have site plan existing conditions. I include some pictures of the sidewalks, and like you can see, there's some cracks, even in the asphalt, on the concrete as well. There's another picture of the ramps, the existing conditions of the ramp, as well as the driveways or access to the businesses. And this picture, you can see that we don't have the proper ADA compliance ramp. The site plan or proposed scope of work will be having new ADA ramps. We'll be having handicap parking with striping and signage. We'll be having landscaping, sidewalks, striping and resurfacing of the section of the street as well. And then for the landscaping, we'll be having 20 trees. We'll be using different type of shrubs and plants, as well as we'll be using what is called golden brown screen. And the project that I was referring for TechStot, it's called Bicycle Connectivity, and that will have the striping for the bike line as well as the signage. But that's part of TechStot project that is going to be coordinated along with our project. The project information, the projected construction start will be spring 2021, and the projected construction completion will be summer 2021. My contact information, it's my phone number, 915-212-1880. My email is rolaak@elpasotexas.gov. And again, if you have any other questions, just let me know.
Yes, Ms. Barola, what will happen to the traffic on Fort Boulevard and Copia during the 8 months?
What is going to happen, the contractor has to pull out a traffic control plan that is going to be approved by street and maintenance. And by contract, the contractor has to be provide access to the commercial business at all the time. Of course, there's going to be some inconvenience, but we're going to have a proper traffic control set up, and as well accessibility to the commercial businesses as well.
So
This is Jerry. If I can add a little bit, this is not a total reconstruction, which is what we've done other places in the city, which is very disruptive. This is a resurfacing at the end of the day, and most of the work is on the sidewalks areas. So, and we still have the angled parking that's in place, which makes it even more buffer from the roadway. The contractor will also have to maintain flowing traffic at all times.
Correct.
thank you. Well, Ms. Barola, will be parking increased for those businesses after the project is completed?
Excuse me, man, you cut off a little bit. Can you repeat that again?
Ms. Barola, will the amount of parking spaces for the businesses on the north and south side of Boulevard?
Alan, I believe the question is if
I do apologize.
I believe the question is if the number of parking spaces on either the north or the south side of the street will be reduced at all as a result of the project.
No, sir. We're keeping the same amount of parking spaces.
Will they be switched to pay parking meters?
No, we're not using parking meters at all. That's not part of this project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. As far as the landscaping, is the city going to be in charge of maintaining and watering and making sure that the landscaping is kept?
No, I believe the owners have to maintain it.
The owners have to maintain the landscaping. So if they don't water it, then the trees die or anything happens to the streets, it becomes the responsibility of the owners.
The trees are warranted for a period of 1 year by the contractor. And so they would be replaced if they die within that period. That period is the most critical for establishing these trees. These trees are native to the area and do not need a tremendous amount of water. Alondra, I was going to ask if we are putting in any irrigation.
Yeah, because I mean, you still need
Yes,
to
sir.
water them the first 3 months. They need to be watered
Yes.
to make sure that they survive, especially with the heat, like we get 100+ degree temperatures.
Yes, sir. Alondra just confirmed that irrigation is going to be installed, so it'd be automatically irrigated.
Right.
Thank you. And as far as the bike stripping, do you have a timeline where that's going to happen?
No, sir, we don't have a timeline. We've been coordinating with the TechStop project manager for the other project, and as of right now, they're waiting. So the construction, what we're doing is we're gonna do the resurfacing first, and then later on they'll come back and do the striping on that end. But we don't have any specific day for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, ma'am. So
Yes.
during busy times on Fort Boulevard in that area, traffic can be, when they're waiting for parking spots and they're waiting for, they become a blockage, for traffic. Has there any consideration being done about traffic control aside from the parking spaces and everything else?
Yes, like I mentioned, during construction, we're gonna have to implement the traffic control. That's pretty much what we're doing all the time. We implement the traffic control, try to minimize the impact on, pedestrian as well as vehicles crossing by. That's what we do.
Oh, right. And that's fine. But my question was about moving forward after the construction. I mean, knowing how traffic can be sort of dangerous during busy times in that area, has there been a consideration done for the future with traffic control after the parking spots are done and the project is done?
I can maybe answer that, Alondra. This is Repinello. So a few things. So this project was funded through CDBG, and Mark can talk a little bit more about that if y'all have questions about that process. But it's when constituents and also the representative request projects. And so this was one that I requested because I think that, the Fort Boulevard Business District is really important to this community and has been, I don't want to say revitalized because it hasn't. That's why that project is here, but has just been so important and strong. And so when it comes to traffic control, I know that y'all who live on the street know that there's been a few accidents over the last couple months. And so actually, Victor, who's on the call, who lives on Fort Boulevard, he and I were just having a conversation. And we've been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks about how that can be dealt with. I know he's gone around and talked to a few residents and collected some signatures. Would definitely be happy to connect you to. So as this project is going through the process and is becoming complete, when it's done, we can hopefully have a plan in place to deal with a lot of the traffic safety issues. And I know, I don't want to speak for Victor, but we were talking definitely about crosswalks and safety elements. But happy to have that conversation with you after this meeting as well.
Thank you, Representative Nello. I appreciate that very much. And yes, I was fortunate enough to speak to Victor today. He visited my home, who I also live on Fort Boulevard. And yes, eventually I would love to discuss the traffic control moving down the blocks. But I was definitely referring to the business area just because, traffic can get a little a little heavy sometimes.
Yeah, especially when people are backing out of that spot, absolutely. And you know, that was like a conversation I know we had in the beginning. Sergio is also on the call about, do we take away that angled parking, but then it would seriously reduce the number of parking because that is a safety issue. And I apologize, Alondra, I wasn't able to see the slides in your presentation. I don't know if, I think you mentioned that there are crosswalks and things being added to the restriping.
Yes, let me pull it out.
Okay.
And are there also bulb outs going in that, you know, will sort of naturally, you know, slow traffic a bit as they enter that 1 block stretch? Just because it visually sort of narrows the road, even if it doesn't actually narrow the pavement width? Or are those bulb outs already there?
No,
No,
we're,
that's part of the project.
yes. So you're talking about this crosswalk?
Right.
Yes, we have that one. And then, like I mentioned, we have the handicap signage and striping and this parking space.
And you have a new crosswalk, not a new crosswalk, a crosswalk on the other end of the improvements.
The limits of the project ended up here, so we just have this one, sir.
You have ADA ramps going into the street, you're going to have a crosswalk.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine.
It's good to know. Thank you, Jerry.
I have a question. For the, since this is only for a block and that you are doing the bicycle stripping, I guess it's a two-part question. What sides of the road is the bikes going to be painted? Is it going to be on the inside and on the outsides in both lanes, or on just one side? And is it only going to be for this block, or is it going to be extended even further?
I think we have Yvette Hernandez on the line, and she's more familiar with the other project. It's not just for that section. I think it started on Montana. Yvette, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, Lucy, I can get you those limits of construction for the improvements. But with regards to what type of facility for this project, it was recommended that this would be a bicycle share. So it will be, in other words, a bicycle share is when both the roadway and the bike share the same lane. So you'll have both in both directions, northbound, southbound, or sorry, it would be eastbound, westbound in this case. They would be sharing the lane with the vehicles. So that kind of alludes to what Mr. Gonzalez was stating. You know, how do we really make this a safe boulevard? So what we're doing here with the work of the CBDG plus the bicycle connectivity, the investment within this boulevard is the first steps in really becoming a complete street. You know, the addition of landscaping, the addition of crosswalks, bulb outs, and striping, really focusing on pedestrian friendly, and the intent is to slow down the traffic within this area. So it's more of a destination. We're looking at multimodal. We're looking at bringing the citizens to those shops, spending time. So this really, Mr. Gonzalez, is the first steps in what you're looking for of investing in safety measures along this area, or along this street rather.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
And just, this is Victor Barajas, just speaking on that point. I'm sorry. One of the things that I've been doing is collecting the signatures, because going back to that point of this street being a bicycle boulevard, as a cyclist myself, it would be very dangerous to just simply have the painted bicycle signs in there without addressing the fact that people are going 40 to 50 miles an hour in there. So one of the things that we've been doing is collecting signatures to get a vehicle speed feedback sign, and maybe getting some crosswalk painted, and whatever measures we can get to address the fact that people are driving very fast on this street and then having a bicycle boulevard in between all of this would be just, it would be very dangerous. So we want to make sure that we address the issue of speed. And for that, I've been collecting signatures, and the consensus has been amongst the people that I've spoken with, that we need to address the speed. There's been a lot of accidents. There's been a lot of different things that have happened on the street, and speed seems to be the unifying factor in all of this.
Also,
Signatures.
there's an issue with the amount of traffic at those businesses. I think somebody mentioned it was an in and out traffic all the time. There's pedestrians and there's lots of cars and there's lots of people in the middle of the street waiting for a space to park. And that's day and night. So I don't understand why we need to introduce bicycles into this area. I just don't see how that's going to increase the probability of accidents.
Ms. Hernandez, can you speak to whether the bike boulevard is in our bike master plan?
Yes, sir, it is. So actually, all the current federally funded projects that we are working on in corridors, they correspond directly to the adopted bike plan that has been approved, and also provided the recommended infrastructure to construct at each of the corridors, in addition to following NACDO standards.
And that was approved by City Council, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, the date escapes me.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll add a little bit to that. So the bike plan is a plan that precedes me. I think it was an initiative of the council for the last decade, and we knew that Fort Boulevard was on the bike plan, and those bicycles were going to be added. And so it was kind of part of looking at this project and say, okay, we know this is happening. How do we kind of get ahead of it and create kind of safety mechanisms for everyone, rather than just putting in bike paths with the situation that we have now.
Sounds like you're going to lose my question, which is why are we going forward with the bikes if we have no idea how they're going to be safe and how to integrate them safely into this project? Why is it being postponed for after the sidewalks and everything has been finished, when someone has a concrete idea of how safety is going to be implemented for everyone involved?
So
I'll let you go ahead, Yvette, because I don't disagree with that statement.
You don't disagree with, I missed the first part of it. I'm sorry. For some reason, Miss Hubble, it's coming a little bit cut across, but I think if I could restate the question or the portion that I did hear, were you saying that you wanted to delay the bicycle connectivity project?
Yeah, I'm just asking, why is it being, pushed forward if there's no idea of safety? Why isn't it being delayed to a later date? There's a
So to address that, actually, we're being financially responsible in having the first portion, which is the presentation here today, in making sure that that foundation is done already, and then the bike plan is coming. So the bike plan was not done in silo without looking at safety. Like I said, the plans adhered to both the adopted bike plan, the city bike plan, and in addition to NACDO. So when you look at Fort Boulevard, it is identified as a bicycle infrastructure, or a street as having bicycle infrastructure. So then becomes the question, is it a bike lane that is buffered? Does it become a protected bike lane? And you need to look at the available right-of-way. Also made mention of speed. What is acceptable? So with the speeds that are currently present, and I know that those living on Fort Boulevard are shaking their head and saying, Yvette, it doesn't mean that they're going the same speed as what we have posted, right? So we want to make sure that we're working in tandem with what is actually occurring, what is approved by NACDO. And the intent is, once we have that multimodal function there, it's to increase the safety and have the vehicle, the personal vehicles, the POVs, to actually slow down, and by incorporating all these different components to therefore increase the safety that you have here. So the intent, the ideal, is to have that connectivity around the city, have more use of bicycle lanes, have more multimodal use, more transit use, and that therefore, as this Fort Boulevard actually becomes the true definition of a boulevard, there in turn will reduce the speeds that we're experiencing on that street.
Okay, I guess I'm a little bit confused. I need a little bit more clarification, because what I understand is that the speeds have not been set and you all are trying to go door to door to get petitions to have what was suggested as different speed signs, the speed monitoring signs. And it is my understanding is that speed has not been involved in part of this plan, but rather as a retroactive trying to combat this now that this project has come up. So is there speed being taken into account in this plan, or is it something that's being supplemented into it?
I apologize. The confusion might lie with having a virtual. So Mr. Victor Barajas is a concerned and active citizen. So it's an initiative that he is taking with the help of those residents that live on Fort Boulevard. So that's where you heard the comment from. That was not introduced by a city employee. So from the city standpoint, what we are saying is that the posted speed limit of 40 miles per hour, a shared bike lane, is an accepted infrastructure to be installed by NACDO. And so what we're saying as a result, what me as a city employee is saying, as a result of the complete street improvements to include the bulb outs, the bike lanes, the landscaping, adding all these elements will in turn maintain acceptable speed limits. So we should see ourselves dropping to the posted 40 miles an hour. So the design was taken into account of speed limits and acceptable posted speed limits.
Really quick, this is Victor Baraja. Just to clarify, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, and NACDO calls for a 30 mile an hour for Bike Boulevard. So the idea is people are driving 40, but the idea would be to try to get people to drive 30, which is the speed limit, so we can comply with NACDO standards.
Sergio, correct me if I'm wrong, was that a change? Because I know Alfredo, CID had gotten with you and Alfredo to check that. So I believed we had both the boulevard and the posting listed as what is approved by NACDO. Sorry, he might have dropped off. Mr. Barajas, I can get back to you on that.
I have the information. I can send it to you if you like, but it's 30 mile an hour, the speed limit here at Fort Boulevard, and NACDO calls for 30 miles an hour as well.
Okay, so my mistake that I stated 40 and it's 30. I apologize for that, Ms. Hoppel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we.
I was muted. I'm sorry. This is Sergio Reyes, work for the Streets and Maintenance Department. Yeah, the speed limit out there is about 30 miles an hour. The NACDO standards actually suggest that a bike boulevard treatment should be implemented under these conditions. That's why it was accepted to have this kind of treatment. Also, I'd like to mention that our department as usually after any implementation of bike lanes or any other type of treatments, especially on any infrastructure that has to do with bulbouts or roundabouts or speed cushions and stuff like that, we run studies after the construction is completed. We run studies so that we can see the effectiveness of the improvements, and that way, if there's any flaws, then we can come back and revise whatever is failing or whatever other improvements we can do. As somebody mentioned, some of the participants was mentioning maybe speed feedback signs. That is something that we can also implement quickly in case there's deficiencies on the corridor.
So is there going to be signage posted for the bike lanes? And my main concern is the Amigo grocery store that is on the corner of Fort Boulevard and Copia. There is a lot of people who pull out of that parking lot and straight into the street without really pulling into the lane first. And so I'm concerned that, especially since it's on a blind spot, that people are going to be pulling out of that, not only reversing out of the parallel parking, the street parking, but coming out of that parking lot at the Amigo Market and not seeing bikes and hitting them. So is there going to be signs? Is there going to be anything implemented?
Sorry, Sergio, I'll make a quick comment and then let you follow up. It was really small noted on the presentation that Ms. Alondra placed, but yes, there are signs all along the corridor.
Yes.
Another concern that I would like to bring up is in that area, when they have deliveries, they park their trucks in the middle of the street. Has that been looked at as well to see, especially with traffic going back and forth, and then the bicycle lanes being added? And this is with Amigo, with the supermarket mainly.
If I'm understanding you correctly, they're parking in the turn lane, center turn lane?
Yes, sir. When they're doing their deliveries, and we see that all along Fort Boulevard, UPS, FedEx, they always park in the middle of the turning lanes. And especially in that area, when they're having the deliveries done, they park the truck in the middle of the street, which creates blockage for traffic. But now we're going to add bike lanes, so that's in itself is going to create a little bit more of a hazard for bike riders.
The travel lanes for automobiles, not the turn lanes, will be shared with the bicycles. There's no definitive bike lane, so it's a joint use, and that shouldn't be a problem in that case.
So my understanding is if they're sharing that lane with bike riders and they need to make a delivery, they're going to be allowed to block the bike lanes.
No. The travel lanes that the automobiles use, not the center turn lane where the delivery trucks park, is shared with the bicycle infrastructure. Cars and bikes will be in the same lane, going the same direction.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
I think a lot of my frustration is coming from is that in this meeting, it was openly stated that there's been an increase of traffic accidents with just vehicles in this area. And now it's being stated that just because the boulevard meets the requirements of the state to be implementing a bike lane, that it should be fine. But at the same time, there is no, openly admittedly, people racing through the street above the posted sign limit. So why is it going ahead? Why is it acting like it's going to be fine when the reality says differently? There is an increase of speed and an increase of accidents in these recent months.
In other parts of the city where we've implemented landscaping and pedestrian improvements, they've served as a traffic calming measure. Believe it or not, they slow traffic down. We've seen that all across the city. And we think that's part of what we are trying to do here is to make that stretch in particular more pedestrian friendly, thereby hopefully drawing people into the businesses.
And that's also including the curve extensions, which also reduce the speeds in the corridor.
Yes.
The area already has a lot of business. And that is the issue here. It is stop and go, waiting for people to pull out and pull in. And I don't see the concept of bicycle lanes fitting in that picture. I know it's some sort of picture you all have about this becoming a boulevard. It is a boulevard. It is very popular here. We can't say that if you improved it, it became a true boulevard. It is a true boulevard now. And the issue is the in and out traffic. I don't know if anybody has stood there on the corner or shopped at any of these businesses like we have for the past 20, 30 years and seen what the traffic is. The traffic is in and out parking to get to those businesses on both sides of the freeway. And I don't see how a bicycle lane in that patch would enhance or improve the traffic situation. Everything you've said is an improvement, except for that bicycle issue.
I just have a quick question. Are bicycles allowed there right now?
My knowledge,
Citywide,
yes.
they can drive anywhere citywide.
There's no assigned bicycle lane right now.
But as we've tried to stress that there isn't a dedicated bicycle lane. The bicycles will share the lanes that the vehicles travel in.
And I'm sorry, that brings another concern to me, because one thing is to have a designated bicycle lane, like they did on Stanton, the Stanton project. And another one is to have a bicycle lane sharing traffic. Knowing how traffic is here on Fort Boulevard, is that really the best way to go when adding a designator or respect a bike rider lane?
So one of the most important things on this project for the community was to preserve the angled parking. The only way we can have dedicated bike lanes is to remove some of that parking. And that is not desirable for the businesses or the neighbors. These situations, I have to tell you, I've seen it in New York City. They work. If a bike is in front of a car, the car has to slow down. Bicyclists are very attuned to looking ahead for risks and opening car doors and backing out cars, people pulling out. I'm not an avid bicyclist, but I can tell you I know several, and they will tell you they ride with their eyes wide open, looking for what could happen. And I think you'll find it'll actually be helpful.
I like to add to Mr. Jerry the motto that also bicyclists can ride over sidewalks. So this project is going to have a very nice sidewalk infrastructure with landscaping in front of the businesses. So bicyclists, if they see any conflict with the vehicles coming out, or if they feel the danger, they are allowed to ride over sidewalks. And this is something, that's a treatment that we have done in the past, and it actually works.
But there's many pedestrians on the sidewalk. Many pedestrians.
And it is true, Ms. Lucy, it is very true. But if we take a look at if you put everything in a balance, I would rather ride through pedestrians than to ride behind vehicles. So the speeds are much lower, and which also do not, which any collision with a pedestrian is not going to be fatal. It's not going to be, there's more conflict. So bicyclists are going to be riding at slower speeds. Pedestrians are also going to be, looking into these bicyclists. And we see this in downtown all the time. Nobody has a problem, or at least our department has not recorded any serious accidents with bicycles and pedestrians. So we don't expect the same. We expect the same thing here.
I got a question for y'all.
Thank you.
I got a question for y'all. Hello? I don't know, why don't y'all redesign the system to take the double width sidewalk that's in front of the businesses, switch it down to a half size on a single width sidewalk, and run an independent bicycle lane between the sidewalk and the parallel parked cars with a bumper guard between the parallel parked cars and the bicycle lane, thus eliminating having to wait on a sidewalk with pedestrians and eliminating the possibility of a car backing up and running into people, because most of the people that shop in that area are elderly. They're not going to be, I'm sorry, but they don't, you're looking for a bicycle, they're going to be looking for a car. And if they don't see it, someone's going to get hit sooner or later. You got a huge sidewalk. Instead of going and wasting money and putting in landscaping, take half of that sidewalk and turn it into a parallel a bicycle lane.
That makes sense.
I mean, I own a business in the general area, and I'm telling you right now, I see people drive past this thing every day. They don't stop at stop signs. They run the red lights. These people don't know how to drive. I'm sorry, they don't. And this area is very dangerous. That's why you have an increase of traffic accidents and everything else. I do not believe that this is an efficient idea to allow independent bikes to just ride with a car because it works everywhere else. Just because it works somewhere else doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna work here.
Those are good points. We did have that conversation. And I think that Sergio, you might be able to speak more to it, as we're just the money here, and we're certainly not the experts. But if I recall, part of the issue was before this block and after this block, the bikes are going to be in the street. And it's very unlikely that just for one block of traffic, cyclists are going to turn and get onto a bike lane and then get back out into the street in the very next lane. I know that was one thing that I heard in our sort of initial meetings when we were talking about this, because that idea was discussed.
Well, I mean, you're telling me bicyclists ride ahead, pay attention, are always psyched up and watching the road. You put up a sign telling them this is the bike lane, the bicyclists will ride in that bike lane if they're that concerned. If they're not, then they're the ones breaking the law. So therefore, if they get hurt, it's their fault for doing it in the first place. They are therefore violating the lane. If they're being told this is your lane, then they must ride in that lane. You're just telling them, well, you can ride wherever you feel like.
But I don't think that's the case.
Motorized vehicle.
Sorry, Mark, I have a question about that. I know I was one of the people who asked for these protected lanes. I know that was the response y'all gave, but something that I had responded to y'all that still is concerning is, so when you get further east on Fort Boulevard, there is a median. And so what happens to the bike lane between, where the median starts and Dyer Street? Does it go off to the side? I mean, it can't be in the middle. And I have not seen the plan for the bike connectivity on Fort Boulevard to understand what the full scope of it is.
Representative Vanello, this is Jerry DeMuro. The bike lane is not going to be in the center lane, so the median will have no impact on bicycle travel. The bicycles will be traveling in the vehicle traveling lanes.
But I guess what I'm saying is, if you have the protected lane, because remember the sidewalks, the right of way is much larger on that block. And so I guess I've never fully understand if you have the protected lane and you went east from Copia, how you wouldn't be able to make the transition. I think that's kind of what the callers were saying. So I don't know if y'all have specific specs on that.
There are specifications for the bicycle infrastructure that is being funded by TxDOT.
This is Antonio Gonzalez. I just wanted to bring out my point of view in this. I've been living in this community for a year. In such time, the one thing I've noticed is the traffic on Fort Boulevard and the speed on Fort Boulevard. My concern is to make a shareable street with traffic and bicycles at any given segment or block. It's dangerous to me. I'm sure you can hear the traffic outside my street right now. It's dangerous to me just because the traffic, the speed on Fort Boulevard is very high, even though the speed limit is posted at 30. But people do not obey that. We know that. So adding a shareable street, a shareable lane for bicycles and traffic, it seems very dangerous to me. And maybe I'm overlooking something, but it just seems very dangerous to me.
If I can comment, the bicycles right now can ride in those lanes. We're only making it more the fact that the bicyclists can be more visible because there'll be sufficient signage alerting motorists there may be bikes.
Yes,
right now,
but I just want to know, when you see signs, you think to yourself that this area is safe. You think to yourself that because there's pointed signs and everything else, that you should go down that route because it's has a better, a less chance, I should say, of being hit than you would on another lane. If people are not here from this immediate area, and I mean immediate as in Fort Boulevard itself, and go down that lane unsuspecting and unknowingly of the traffic that goes through that area, it's not going to make it any safer. People are going to let down their guard thinking that and be encouraged to be in that area because it's posted and signed. Following the route, as it were, as you're saying, it's going to go all the way from Montana to, I'm not exactly sure where it's going to end. They're going to be encouraged to follow this area and not know this area and the amount of traffic that's in it.
Man, with all due respect, I think we can say that for any other part of the city. An avid bicyclist will tell you they know the routes they would ride on. For example, Hawkins Boulevard, very, very busy, but it's going to have a bike lane on it. And avid bicyclists will tell you, there's no way I'm getting on that road. And that's what you'll find with the bicyclists. I'm less worried about the bicyclists. I understand your concern about speed. We'll have our streets and maintenance people take a look at what can be done. And if we can incorporate something into this or another project, we will try to do that.
If you guys are talking about greater visibility, why are you putting in landscaping? Landscaping cuts down your visibility, and no matter what, it takes many years. It takes many years for a plant to grow. So if you put in a tree, it's going to be 6 foot when you put it in. It's going to take you 10 to 15 years for it to get big enough to be worth anything, and the height. And then it's going to be blocking views, and you're going to increase the cost of for the city of having to maintain that landscaping. You're increasing our costs. So this is $618,000 some odd dollars, but you're not talking about the future cost of what it's going to take to maintain that landscape. There's water, there's nutrients, there's trimming, there's making sure and when it dies, you got to replace it.
So under city ordinance, the property owner is responsible for the landscaping. The tree.
Responsible?
Can I?
They got to come up with this extra money.
Just to add another comment on what Mr. Demur is saying.
I'm a business owner in that neighborhood, and nobody has told me I'm going to be responsible for maintaining any plants that you planning on putting in front of my building.
It is a city ordinance, sir. I didn't make it up. I didn't approve it, but it is a city ordinance.
I don't think you that.
And just to emphasize what Mr. Demur is saying, we did receive some comments on requesting landscaping in that area.
And landscaping also has an effect of calming traffic.
So what I'm wondering is, why are we having this community meeting where you have people who are living in the area telling you this is a very bad idea, and you're ignoring us and trying to justify it anyway? If we don't spend the money on bicycles, and just don't
Ma'am,
spend it.
we're not ignoring you. We're not ignoring you. We have plenty of comments from folks in the neighborhood that want this done. We've heard from, we've heard from them too.
Or is it like the vast majority? What
Ma'am,
percentage of people are saying that they want this?
I didn't catch that. You're breaking up.
What percentage of people in the area are saying that they want this, and who was surveyed?
Ma'am, I don't have access to that information at this point, and it's unfair for you to ask me that right now. We presented what we presented. We will go back and look at what can be done to calm traffic, and we'll communicate what can be done. I think ganging up on us and basically saying you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, ignore facts, ignore design standards that are national for these types of facilities, it's disrespectful. I'm sorry.
I think what's not getting across is that we are trying to, of course, we want improvements in the neighborhood. I think all of us are in favor of that. We just have to bring up different areas that we consider to be, of course, a concern. And of course, we do value what's being done, but in no way is this nobody ganging up on you. It's just we're bringing up concerns as community members to, just things that need to be addressed.
We have heard those concerns, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. I made a statement that we will go back, take a look at what can be done, work internally, work with our tech stock team to see what can be done. And if something can be done, we'll do it. Remember, part of these all of these improvements are being federally funded. You're getting something that the city's not having to pay for. We appreciate all your comments.
Just because the government gives you money, I'm not paying for it. I paid it. How do you think the government gets its money? The government gets its money from taxing us.
Sir, I know that.
Right, but if we don't spend it here, then somebody else is going to spend it somewhere else.
That's correct.
Can you all hear me? Sorry, I've been having some issues with the internet. I think this definitely warrants a conversation in the future. I think there have been a lot of comments that I think are completely legitimate, and I think staff is saying that they have their reasons for doing them. Unfortunately, in this presentation, especially with our limits being digital, I don't think that we have a lot of understanding of that. And so I think that, if to all of the residents on the street, if you are all comfortable allowing them to go back with your feedback and scheduling a meeting in the future to kind of talk about how your concerns will be addressed in this project.
Thank you, Representative Anello. That is what we said we were going to do.
I'm still a little confused equally about the landscaping. So there is going to be irrigation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the irrigation, I understand that the trees are under warranty by the contractor for a year, but does that irrigation remain after the year is over?
It is standard practice for it to remain. There are some people that actually say it should be taken out, but we as a city have not removed the irrigation after a 1-year period.
Okay, and so where does the water source come from?
It's public water. It's metered.
It's the metered water. So, okay, so that's a conversation. If y'all, when we come back, if you can just help us understand what we think the rates will be divided by the businesses in the area on the irrigation for the project this size. I know that's a lot. I don't know if y'all have that data, but if there are similar projects and how that kind of plays out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Alondra. The meters are assigned to the city. Am I correct?
Yes.
So
Okay.
There would be no water charges to the businesses or residents.
So I guess when we're saying that needs to be maintained for the business owners, that's if some trimming needs to be done, or if something needs to be replaced, which my office is always willing to help work on those things. But when it actually comes to maintaining and watering daily or weekly, that actually will be taken care of by the irrigation.
Yes, ma'am.
So no immediate cost to the business owners. Okay, glad we could clear that up. And again, any future maintenance that needs to be done, where we, as the representative's office and not speaking for the staff, always happy to help with those things. So I don't know if anyone else wants to respond to kind of my suggestion about having a follow-up meeting.
We are perfectly happy to do that, Representative.
Any of the residents?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that's a good idea. Thank you.
I'd like more information as a business owner on that area. I'd like more information as to my future obligations to that plant that you're planning on putting in my area, because I need to worry about insurance. If that tree branch falls and hits somebody, am I liable? If somebody runs into it, am I liable? If that tree dies and falls on somebody, am I liable? I need to know all those types of things before you go sticking a plant in front of my building. My building doesn't have them for that purpose.
That's a good point. That's good information that we can get for you. Okay, and Jerry, really quickly, when is and I'm sorry, I think you covered this at the beginning of the meeting. When is the project projected to start?
I believe it
That's
was this spring.
the spring, correct.
Okay.
That's the spring 2020.
Okay, so we have definitely ample time to meet again to discuss some of the issues.
Correct.
I think a good suggestion here is to make sure that we have a. This is Matthew Ibarra. I work for Representative Vanillo. I think a good idea here is that before we close out, I don't know if we're getting close to the end, but making sure that we get some of the contact information for some of the guests here. I'd love to be able to make sure that we follow up with them and make sure that they're part of that. So if the guests that are present before we exit out today, if you wouldn't mind sticking around a little longer, I'd love to be able to take your contact information.
Matthew, there is a sign-in sheet in the chat function, and I asked everyone to sign in. I hope everyone did.
And in case there's
Showed up late, so I didn't know about the chat. So I'll go ahead. I got to look that up wherever that's at.
Sorry, yes, I don't see anything on the chat. Did we just enter our name on it, or?
It's an assigning sheet attached.
Oh,
I think if you signed in late, it's not visible. I think it's just visible to people who were signed in when it was shared in the chat.
So if you scroll all the way up to the top of the chat, it's the first thing that's there.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I think with scrolling, it's away. It's not there anymore.
Let me attach it again.
Okay, we're going to drop that back in the chat. For anybody, I think there are some people that just are on their phone too that don't have access to the chat. You can always reach out to us directly, and we can share contact information with staff. But also, you can reach us. My office phone number is 915-212-0002. So for anybody who's on their phone and does not have access to the chat.
Yes, and I just upload again the signing sheet and the chat.
Yeah, I see it now. Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Alondra.
You're welcome.
My apologies. I clicked on the sign-in sheet and it gave me an error message. Is anybody else getting that, or is that just me?
I believe that's just you because I don't have a problem with it.
You can type your information as well in the chat so we can get it from there.
So if there's no further comments, if you can type your information into the chat, that would be great if you can't get into the sign-in sheet. And thank you for coming out and openly expressing your concerns. We take you seriously. And as we committed to, we will go back, take a look at what can be done. And if things can be done, we'll do them.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Representative Leno, thank you for your time, and thank you everybody for the discussion. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Be safe.
Alondra and Daniel, if you can hang back. Sergio, you're welcome to hang back too. So I know the representative is still on the line. I just wanted to do sort of a post-mortem, if you will. We've heard the concerns. I think we have two things we need to deal with. Some sort of speed control study, or not study, but, you know, Sergio, if you and Mr. Yang would take a look at what's going on out there. Is there anything that we can do? I also think that we may want to look at widening the center turn lane to make the lanes smaller, travel lanes smaller, which has a tendency to slow down traffic.
Okay.
Is the center lane painted now, Alondra?
Yes, sir.
Is it visibly painted? Is it like the rest of the stuff around town?
Let me share the actual conditions.
Sergio, is it possible for you and Mr. Yang to take a look at that?
I think it is, Jerry, because working with Sergio and Hannah Williams, and that's something that Sam directed, was to look at all the traffic control study. They interpolated, especially regarding the angled parking. So I know they have sufficient info to look at, see what traffic calming devices we can include.
I think simply resurfacing and restriping is going to make a huge visible difference. And there may be a way to widen that lane a little bit and slow traffic down in each direction.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think, like I said before, this is a much larger traffic issue that's not just this block, that the residents, as they said, are trying to work on as well.
Right.
So a lot of the frustration does not just come from here, but definitely is warranted. I know that's why, you know, we're looking at doing this project is to deal with a lot of that and the growth of the area. And I think sometimes that is, you know, y'all know it better than I do, but I understand a lot more of it from a lot of our conversations. I know Sergio and I have met many times about this project, but I think also providing the information on how the mechanisms that we're putting in do have an impact on traffic calming, I think is important, right? Sometimes we don't explain everything because we understand it at a level that some people are maybe not used to when it comes to traffic calming. So I think when we do meet again, showing examples of, okay, so these are the bulb outs that we're putting in these areas. This is the impact it'll have on traffic. I think just going a little bit more in depth, you know, addressing the concerns that have been arisen in this meeting and how we are already and can continue even further to address.
I think that's a very good idea. So with that, hope everybody has a nice evening.
Thank you all very much.
I think I'm going to go for a walk.
Take a deep breath.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. We'll see you soon, hopefully.
Bye-bye.
Alondra.